All right, ready to dive into some serious doctrine.
Always up for it.
We're cracking open ADP 305, specifically Chapter 8, Employment.
Huh?
Time to get a grip on how RSOF actually operates and, contributes to the bigger picture of, well, everything.
The bread and butter of special ops, right?
Exactly.
Bah.
And one thing that really struck me about this chapter was how it digs into the why behind RSOF. It's not just about direct action, kicking down doors.
Right.
There's this whole other level of shaping the environment even before any crisis pops up.
Yeah, it's fascinating how ADP 305 really dismantles that stereotype of special operations being all about, just force.
Yeah.
It's like they're emphasizing their role in influencing the political landscape, the social dynamics, even the economic factors in a region.
It's all about making large-scale conflict less likely.
Exactly. Prevention over reaction.
So we could be talking about discreetly building relationships with local leaders.
Absolutely.
Yeah, immersing themselves in the culture.
Understanding the intricacies, yeah.
Or even training partner nation forces.
All with that goal of preventing conflict rather than having to react to it.
It's like they're laying the groundwork for stability years in advance.
Long game.
And I thought it was really interesting. The document even uses the example of like a single soldier
Oh, yeah.
deployed to a U.S. embassy,
Right.
working behind the scenes to support their objectives.
Yeah, it really highlights the individual impact.
It really does.
Yeah,
And the diverse skill set these individuals bring to the table.
absolutely. And that example, it just perfectly illustrates how ADP 305 emphasizes the strategic use of RSOF, not just during wartime, but as a constant asset
Right.
for achieving national objectives.
So it's not just about being prepared for a fight.
Supporting combatant commanders, even in peacetime.
It's about preventing the fight in the first place.
Exactly.
And speaking of different types of fights, Chapter 8 does a great job of breaking down RSOF involvement across the entire spectrum of military operations.
Yeah.
It's not just those high-stakes denied area missions,
Mhm.
like we always imagine.
Right.
They're involved in military engagement, security cooperation,
Uh-huh.
crisis response, limited contingency operations.
It's a broad spectrum.
It really is.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting is that within each of those scenarios, ADP 305, it actually gets into the weeds a bit.
Right.
It provides tangible examples of how RSOF operates.
Like what?
So take disrupting adversary networks, for instance.
Okay.
Imagine there's intel suggesting a potential disruption to, let's say, a critical supply route.
Okay. Yeah.
RSOF could be deployed to pinpoint those vulnerabilities, confirm those suspicions, which then directly impacts your logistical planning.
Oh, wow.
Helps you anticipate potential challenges.
It's like having that intel advantage.
Exactly.
Knowing the potential threats before they even materialize.
And that's precisely why understanding RSOF, even if you're not directly working alongside them, is crucial. Having that broader awareness of their potential involvement can completely change how you approach a mission.
Oh, I bet.
Even in a support role.
Wow. It really drives home, that idea that no unit is an island.
Totally. We're all interconnected.
And that interconnectedness is super apparent when we start looking at these command and control structures.
Yeah, absolutely.
That ADP 305 lays out.
Makes sense.
It really puts a huge emphasis on crystal clear lines of authority.
Right, and you can see why.
Especially with these complex, multi-domain environments where RSOF is usually operating.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, the document doesn't just say, hey, you need clear command and control.
Right.
It actually gives you a practical example
of
how these structures actually function in a real-world scenario.
Okay, I like that.
So let's just say, hypothetically, there's a hostage situation unfolding in a remote region. You've got a special operations task force right there on the ground, coordinating with a joint task force. Right.
Which might involve, elements from other branches, right?
Makes sense.
And then overseeing this entire thing, making sure everything's running smooth, that's Theater Special Operations Command.
So they're like
the bridge.
The bridge, yeah, between the tactical level on the ground.
Exactly.
And those big picture strategic objectives.
They tie it all together.
It's like it's like a finely tuned orchestra, right?
I like that analogy.
Each section's got its own part, but they all have to work together to actually make music. You know what I mean?
I do, yeah. That harmony, that's what it's all about.
And I guess just like, an orchestra needs a conductor.
To keep everyone on the same page.
Our RSOF, they rely on these, really robust command and control structures,
Yeah,
like,
to make sure they're meshing with conventional forces.
because it's not just about avoiding friendly fire, even though that's obviously important.
Of course, of course.
But it's bigger than that, right?
It's about leveraging those unique capabilities, using everyone's strengths
Exactly. You've got conventional, you've got special operations, but they've got to work as one.
to achieve that common objective.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It's like even the most elite unit, they can't just function in a vacuum.
No, they need that support structure.
They need the intel, the firepower, the whole shebang.
The whole force working together.
And that actually brings us to something I thought was really interesting in ADP 305.
Okay, what is it?
It's how it talks about RSOF constantly evolving.
Ah, yes, always adapting.
Like it acknowledges that this isn't some static force.
Right.
Frozen in time.
They're constantly evolving. New threats, new tech, new ways of, well,
Waging war.
Exactly.
Sounds like meta warfare,
And what's really fascinating is that this evolution, it goes beyond just getting new gear.
Okay.
It's about expanding their whole mindset,
Oh, wow.
understanding that operational environment.
So it's intellectual too,
It is. It's about operating in those gray areas.
where it's not so clear cut.
Exactly. That space between peace and, well, full-blown war.
Gosh, even wrapping your head around that is tough.
It's a complex world out there.
It is.
Think about disinformation.
Oh, yeah.
Cyber warfare, social media being used to influence entire populations.
Right. It's like, where do you even begin with that?
These are the challenges that, well, they don't exactly fit into our traditional understanding of warfare.
No, not at all.
But they can destabilize an entire region,
It can.
spark a conflict just as easily as any weapon.
That's a really good point. So it's not just about being prepared for the last fight, right?
It's about anticipating the next one.
Which might look completely different.
Exactly.
That's got to be a tough job, always having to adapt, evolve.
It is. It's demanding.
Stay ahead of the curve.
But that's also what makes RSOF so valuable. They aren't just reacting, they're shaping the future.
Trying to make things more stable.
A more secure world. That's the goal.
It's like they're playing 4D chess,
Something like that.
while everyone else is stuck on checkers.
Chuckles. Perhaps.
But seriously, it really makes you realize just how critical their work is.
It is.
And how important it is for everyone in the military to, at a minimum, understand the basics.
At least have a grasp of what they do and how they do it.
Exactly. It really highlights that knowledge is power, right?
Especially in our line of work.
Especially in the military.
Mm-hmm.
The more we understand all the pieces of the puzzle, the better off we are, no matter what comes up.
I completely agree.
So to kind of bring it all together, this deep dive into ADP 305, Chapter 8,
Mm-hmm.
it gives us a lot to consider, right?
Definitely.
We've covered their expanded role in shaping the environment before things even get going.
Right.
Their involvement across, like, every type of military operation you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, how critical those command and control structures are just to make sure everything operates smoothly.
Absolutely. It's all about integration, making all the parts work together.
Seamlessly. But I think, for me at least, what really stands out is just how adaptable RSOF has to be.
Yeah.
It's not just about reacting to the latest threat. It's almost like they're trying to predict the future of warfare.
Trying to shape it, really, to create a more stable, secure world.
Which is honestly kind of reassuring in a world that doesn't always feel very stable.
Right at that, right.
So if you're looking to, impress the higher-ups,
Chuckles.
or maybe just wrap your head around how this whole military machine really works,
I'd say it's worth a read.
check out ADP 305. This deep dive is just a starting point.
Just a taste.
RSOF is a fascinating world, and their role in keeping us safe, absolutely vital.
Couldn't agree more.
And hey, whether you're in logistics or infantry or any MOS, really understanding this stuff
It makes you a more valuable asset.
to the entire Army.
That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into ADP 305, Chapter 8. Hopefully this episode gave you some things to think about.
It's a process.
Maybe spark some new insights into the world of special operations. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those tough questions. This is The Deep Dive, signing off.